Hi, I'm Rob.
And I'm Rob too. And today we're talking about something which has been kind of on the number one list to a lot of fans of the RPG, of anticipated games. Not Final Fantasy 15. Yeah, 15.
You were going to say 17, weren't you?
Yeah, it's all the numbers. It's a reaction to that. It's I Am Setsuna.
Isn't this also from Square Enix?
It is, but not like the mainstay Square Enix sort of development studio. It's from this little sub-brand that they've developed called the Tokyo RPG Factory. They're not good at names, really.
Well,
to be fair.
Yeah, I mean, they've stuck with Final Fantasy for... Well, it's called Final Fantasy 15, but it's a long way past 15 in terms of the number of Final Fantasy games.
You're probably closer to the 30s by this point.
I think it's just above 20 now.
Oh, well, not that far. But I Am Setsuna, or Project Setsuna, as it's also known, is calling back to the days of the SNES, I guess. Like 8-bit, 16-bit RPGs in which you control sort of like an isometric level where the camera sort of sits above everything.
That's more straight up top down rather than isometric, because isometric
it's a bit isometric, it's a little bit top down. It's sort of both on neither.
Ah, okay.
Taking all of that classic genre baggage is coming from this 8-bit, 16-bit RPG phase, and it's putting a new spin on it. It's got a glorious art style, almost painterly, and it's using a sort of a similar motif of the score. I mean, those old games weren't all classic pieces of booming orchestral work or fudding electronic rock or whatever. It was just basically one channel of very, very iconic themes in a lot of cases.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people remember the theme tunes from Final Fantasy VII, Final Fantasy VIII, and various things like that. But there's a lot of people who remember the theme tunes from games like Grandia as well.
Yeah, this is of that tradition. It's just basically a single piano, and it crosses all the sort of moods. It manages to get sort of the high action of the battles and the quieter, solemn moments of the drama.
Okay.
Down to perfection. It's just gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. But I feel like I've missed the most important part of this. It's an RPG. We've got to talk about the plot.
Okay, so what is I Am Setsuna about? I'm assuming there's somebody called Setsuna in there.
Yes,
Setsuna.
Yes, there is. That would be a bit of a red herring if there wasn't a Setsuna character. Right. You play a character called Endia. He's called Endia by sort of the generic presets. I like to keep the characters called what they're supposed to be called, even though you can't change them.
Okay.
And he's part of a clan of assassins. And as the game starts, you are set on a mission to go to a foreign island to kill this girl called Setsuna. Now, when you go through your little island, you get a boat, you go to this new place, and you go looking for the character called Setsuna. You don't know who she is or what sort of significance she has to the world. But upon finding her, you find out that she's basically a sacrifice. Every 10 years, a sacrifice is sent out to go on a sort of a journey to stop the world from being attacked by monsters, because monsters are a very real threat. They're attacking villages, they're attacking everything, and they get much more aggressive with each passing year.
Isn't this Final Fantasy X?
A little bit, and you're basically trying to kill this girl.
Okay, there's a difference.
Yeah, and as things conspire, you basically end up getting taken along as one of her guards. And you're going on this adventure to find out why these monsters are attacking and potentially stop it. Maybe you're successful, maybe you're not. I don't want to say either way, because it's the journey. It's a journey game, this. And that is the basic setup. Obviously, there's not so much side quests, but there's twists in the tale. You meet characters from all sorts of connections to these previous missions to find out what's happening with the sacrifices. But yeah, that's basically the setup for it.
Yeah, my brain is just going off into La La Land at the moment, because you've called him Endia the Assassin.
Yeah, the whole clan wears masks, so there's constant references to that.
Yeah, it's just Endear, so does that mean he's an endearing assassin, or Endear the Assassin, or what? Do you see what I mean?
A little bit, because there's like an option to have multiple choice dialogue. It's basically one of them's like most of the time it'd be questions like regarding a certain thing or a certain character, but sometimes when it's like a yes/no answer, being him being that endearing endear, or being an absolute horrible bugger.
And the other bit that's going through my head is, you go to the island to find somebody called Setsuna. Mm-hmm. The game is called I Am Setsuna. So for some reason, my brain went off to the ending of Spartacus and just loads of women standing up going, I'm Setsuna. I'm Setsuna.
Well, it's a big story. Who knows what's going to happen?
Exactly.
The gameplay, I think you got to really mention it, even though it's a classic RPG in the sense that it's turn-based.
Okay.
Which I think is a nice thing because the modern RPG, it's been inspired a little bit too much by Western stuff. So you have like Star Ocean, which we got reviewed recently. It's basically turn-based. Okay, but you got this little time bar thing, which technically qualifies those games like Star Ocean and like Final Fantasy as turn-based, even though they're not really. Let's be fair.
Yeah, it's that active time battle thing, isn't it? ATB, whatever. I mean, they've started Square Enix have started using it a hell of a lot, and with some varying degrees of success. I'm not really a big fan of it, but
yeah, me neither. This is a proper traditional turn-based thing.
See, I liked it.
The way it plays is you basically, let's say you find someone in the world, like monsters. There's no sort of screen dissolving and it becoming a battle scene like a lot of these things used to. It just sort of has your characters move to a different position on the screen, and with every move of a specific character or a specific move, will move your character in that little square that you're fighting in. And it has like a degree of strategy in where your characters move and what moves they're doing, and how many sort of people you can catch up in the splash damage. But at the same time, it's time-based, as in there's a timeline where you have to fill that thing before you have the character do a certain thing.
So it's turn-based, but also a bit like Final Fantasy Tactics or Disgaea type thing.
Yeah, well, it's not like Disgaea, not really, but it has that timeline, but the timeline doesn't stop. It doesn't wait for you. There's no sort of illusions to think, it's going to let me do this. It's going to let me be really thoughtful and strategic. But that doesn't really sink in while like the levels or the characters that you fight are pretty easy. Once it starts introducing like a difficulty curve, it's like, oh wow, this is kind of a flawed battle system. I like it, but it takes away any sort of hesitation. It just means if you don't react now, you're going to die.
Okay, well, there's just playing devil's advocate. There is a school of thought that says that that's a preferred method, a preferred approach, because it adds an immediacy to the battle.
Yeah, but it's just the fact that it's like a drop-down menu of like attack, magic, item, that sort of thing.
That kind of takes you away from that immediacy, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's sort of it's wanting to have its cake and eat it. I mean, I like that it's trying to do that. It's different. It's classic, and I've always liked turn-based RPGs the most. But it's also trying to be something a bit more contemporary at the same time.
It sounds a bit more like, I mean, I hate to say it like this, but it sounds a lot like the battle system that they tried to use in Final Fantasy XII.
The gambits, I think they called it on that.
Well, yeah, with the thing is, if you didn't have any gambits active, then that battle system is what I'm talking about. Once you activated the gambits, the battle system just went out the window.
Yeah, but I like it a great deal. It's in an age where everybody is racing off into the sunset to make like RPGs much more contemporary, much more Western, and much more sort of accessible to as broad an audience as possible.
Yeah,
it's making the weirdos of the RPG system seem like antiquated by comparison. Like Star Ocean is a very good like RPG for the PlayStation 2 era. This is just saying, right, we're not trying to show the limitations of what we are or what we have available. We're just going to do this RPG, which is classic in every sense of the word. Because, I mean, we both know people who like the grandiers, like the Chrono Triggers, like all these classic SNES era RPGs.
You mean me?
What do you mean me?
I'm the one who likes all those.
Well, yeah, but there's other people we know too. Yeah. And imagine there's people out there listening to this and watching this video that are like that too. They know people, or if they don't, they are those people. This is an RPG for those people. You know, those people have always had to go to like second-hand shops. They've always had to dig something out of the attic if they want to sort of get that buzz again.
You mean me?
Yeah. But there's this game. It's new, it's fresh. It is absolutely gorgeous. I cannot stress that enough. It's not like gorgeous in a sort of sense of everything sort of epic and grand and imaginative. It's just beautiful in a more down to earth and simple way.
Okay.
And something to be said about that, you know. Art style is more impressive than graphical fidelity, I think.
Well, I kind of agree with you on that one. I mean, when I was looking at... Because Gamescom has just been around, right?
It has.
And one of the things that caught my attention was Silence, the Whispered World 2.
Yeah.
Not because of anything other than the art style, because it reminded me so much of the Dark Crystal.
The art style is growing point of popularity in video games, and I'm all for this. And this, for me, this is running at the front of that guard alongside Child of Light.
Yeah, because Child of Light...
I think that is them two are like two of the most beautiful games I've ever played.
Yeah, I mean, there's other games that are in that Child of Light mode coming out. Seasons After Fall, to name one.
Ori and the Blind Forest. That sort of style is just right up my alley. And I think it's got its problems. I think the fact that it doesn't stop to allow you to think, despite using the drop-down attack, magic, whatever, battle system is a problem. But just on the sheer merit of being so different, of being so iconically classic,
yeah,
I think this is basically a pretty much essential buy for anybody who grew up playing SNES, PlayStation 1 era RPGs. I can't put it in any more explicit terms than that. I'm to be perfectly blunt.
Fantastic.
I think you'd love it, by the way.
Really?
It's like putting on an old hat that you didn't realise was that comfortable until you got it back. If that makes sense as an analogy.
You know how much I love my hat.
It's like when you think your grandparents are all ridiculous for sitting in the chairs that they do. But once you sit in that grandparent chair, in that granddad chair, it's like, this is so comfortable. Why didn't I play more of these things? This is the video game analogy of that.
It's comfy slippers time, is it?
It's a comfy slippers time. It's perfect granddad chair video game. And I mean that with all the love in the world. I'm not being condescending. This is a great game, this is a great game.
Okay, cool. So, that's already out now, isn't it?
It's a digital release, and I think it's about a £15 price point. I played it on PS4, so yes, no excuses for any of you PS4 players.
Fantastic. Okay, so that was I Am Setsuna. We'll be back again with more reviews very soon.
See you then.